President Donald Trump frequently invokes the late 19th century as a golden era of American industry and national pride. He admires William McKinley, a president who championed high tariffs to protect American manufacturers.
William McKinley. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman.
Trump echoed McKinley's ideas, claiming that tariffs had once made the country rich and could do so again. It's a nostalgic narrative that draws a direct line between past prosperity and isolationist trade policies. However, historians offer a stark reality check.
It wasn't a particularly happy society. There was a huge division between the rich and the poor, and the condition of the poor was appalling.
In the final year of his presidency, McKinley made a speech promoting friendly trade relations, saying, quote, "Commercial warfares are unprofitable," end quote. How does throwback vision of prosperity hold up in today's global economy? In 2018, Trump launched a series of tariffs on Chinese imports, steel, aluminum, and more, under the promise of revitalizing American industry. The logic was simple: make foreign goods more expensive, and American industry would regain competitiveness. But the modern economy is more complex than that.
President Trump is a 20th century man operating in a 21st century economy who wants to take us back to the 19th century. The world is just so different today.
A 2024 study by David O'Toole and colleagues found that, quote, "The trade war has not provided economic help to the U.S. heartland. Employment in protected sectors stayed flat, and overall, Trump tariffs 1.0 resulted in a net negative impact on American welfare." Similarly, a 2019 Federal Reserve Board paper by Aaron Flayen and Justin Pierce found that any small positive impact on employment from direct import protection was outweighed by larger negative effects from rising input costs and retaliatory tariffs. What are the biggest challenges in reshoring manufacturing to the United States? The process of shifting manufacturing to the U.S. takes 3 to 10 years in most cases, and even longer for modern advanced manufacturing.
And in my opinion, it's an economic Armageddon, but especially for the tech industry. I mean, this would take the U.S. tech industry back a decade if these tariffs actually come through.
So even the threat of sky-high tariffs won't be enough to force tech giants like Apple to move their suppliers to the U.S. en masse.
It would take Apple $30 billion and 3 years to move just 10% of the supply chain to the U.S., leaving 90% over there.
A 2025 CNBC survey found that 61% of companies believe it's more cost-effective to move operations to other low-tariff countries rather than to return to the U.S. Cost is another major hurdle. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, as of mid-2024, the average American manufacturing worker earns nearly $30 per hour, compared to just $7 in China and even less in other developing markets. That's more than a four-fold difference. Adding in rising costs for water, energy, and broadband infrastructure, and nearly half of companies surveyed by CNBC said reshoring would more than double their costs, forcing them to raise prices and potentially triggering demand destruction.
I think 90% is a reasonable number, almost double.
63% of respondents said a recession would be the likely outcome. For high-tech products, prices would soar even higher.
And the way that they have 1.5 billion iPhones and they're able to make them at $1,000 is because of the supply chain that's really been built over the last decade. You build that in the US, there'll be $3,500 iPhones.
Beyond costs, the US also faces a severe shortage of skilled labor.
We don't have the institutions to train the people in trades at the numbers we need.
Our big limiter here is the workforce. We just haven't been training people for these roles.
According to a report by Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute, the American manufacturing sector could face a shortage of 2.1 million skilled workers by 2030, further complicating any large-scale return of production. Apple CEO Tim Cook said, quote, "In the US, you could have a meeting of tooling engineers, and I'm not sure we could fill a room. And even if companies do manage to bring manufacturing stateside, many would still depend on imported components. Legacy industrial infrastructure and outdated logistics networks in the US make it difficult to build fully self-sufficient supply chains." What really changed? The decline of American manufacturing did not begin with China or trade. It began in the 1970s with the rise of financialization. The economy shifted from producing goods to managing capital. Declining manufacturing employment and relative contribution to GDP reflects significant structural changes in the American economy, which have less to do with trade policy and more to do with the growing dominance of the finance sector, increased concentration, and the reduction in the relative complexity of the U.S. economy, as documented by the Atlas of Economic Complexity project at Harvard University. Corporations prioritized shareholder value over industrial investment. Automation and globalization accelerated the trend. Trade was a symptom, not the cause. Tariffs, while politically effective, do little to address these deeper structural changes. Can American manufacturing come back? The answer increasingly is unlikely, at least not in the way many imagine. The policies enacted under the banner of industrial revival have often done the opposite. Section 232 tariffs, for instance, raised the cost of imported components and raw materials. In an era of global supply chains, this made U.S. manufacturing less competitive, not more. The unpredictable use of tariffs, the threat of retaliatory measures from trading partners, and growing concerns about America's political and legal stability have all introduced significant uncertainty. In today's global economy, rational investors hesitate in the face of strong uncertainty. Foreign companies are less likely to build new factories in the United States, and even American firms are increasingly looking abroad, toward countries with clearer rules, lower costs, and more predictable policies. This is not the foundation for industrial revival. It's not just that tariffs fail to bring manufacturing back. It's that they actually may be pushing it further away.